Tonight we're on Revelation chapter 8, which is lesson 17 in our book. A scene in heaven in the first blast of the trumpet judgments. Over the last two weeks that we were together, and I can't even begin to tell you when the last two times we met were, but the last time we kind of had a pause after the first 6 seals were broken, and then we had an interlude the last time we were together, and then tonight as we go into chapter 8, we're going to look at the 7th seal as it's broken, and we look at the trumpet judgments. There's only 13 verses, and I think do things just a little different tonight. We'll just kind of go over each verse and then kind of answer the questions that pertain to that particular verse maybe, and then just look at the verse individually a little more in depth instead of generally looking at the whole text as together. In verse 1 it says, "When the Lamb broke the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour." And if we look at our questions, I don't know what. Kathy, did you mess with my computer?
I didn't touch it.
It says, our first question, and it pertains to this first verse, it says, "What happens when the Lamb opens the 7th seal?" And it says there was that pause for a half an hour. Why do you think that this happened? Why was there this pause? It's kind of an eerie calm before the storm. The living creatures, the elders, all the angels, everything we've seen in the visions up to this point, they've been praising God, and then all of a sudden, now everything falls silent. And
Well, I think if we heard a trumpet sound, like right now, we would become silent, waiting to see
what's going to happen?
next.
Yeah.
We would be praying silently, thinking, what can I do, probably.
A little bit of anticipation, a little bit of, I don't know, fear. Yeah.
And I thought that this, when I was going over it, was a change from the loving God to the wrathful God. And it was sort of scary.
Mm-hmm.
And or at least it was to me when I was going over it.
It gives us 3 verses there to look at. Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 7 and 14 through 18. And these all reference silence as well. And then the second one, well, that first one in Zephaniah, if you looked at it first in verse 7, it says, "Be silent before the Lord God, for the day of the Lord is near, for the Lord has prepared a sacrifice, he has consecrated his guests." So in those particular verses, that silence occurred because the day of the Lord is near, and it indicates a reverent awe in view of the terrible and wonderful things God is about to do. And then if we look at Zechariah 2, verse 13, it says, "Be silent, all flesh, before the Lord, for he is aroused from his holy habitation." Again, it's kind of in reverence to what actions God is about to take. Habakkuk 2:20, "But the Lord is in the holy temple, let all the earth be silent before him." And just like the other two verses, it's just a matter of reverence before God. You know that something, God is about to do something.
Did I get a wrong feeling, because I got down here, God, for the pause or something, that God is giving people a chance to change? Is that right or is that wrong?
I think a
Everything's
chance to
something,
reflect, yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Okay.
I've got to confess our sins and seek forgiveness. So.
now if we move on to verse 2, it says, "And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them." So in question 4, it says, what happened during this half hour? 7 angels come on the scene, right? And the trumpets were given to them. And again, there's that anticipation in that silence of what's about to happen, what God's about to do.
I wrote down, heaven is awaiting judgment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Now, it talks about the trumpets that were given to them in verse 2. In question 5, it asks us to look up the word trumpet in Greek, as it's used here. Did any of you find that word?
I found it said describe motion, shaking, quaking, billowing, and reverberation.
Like that pronouncement, but I said it was used to build anticipation, alert, or to make an announcement, warning, or something's about to take place.
I just studied the Feast of the Trumpets, what the Jewish people wanted their feast is, and it's in September before the Day of Atonement. But the trumpets were used to usually gather the people together. It was also a war cry. When a new king came into position, they would always blow it. It was when the year of Jubilee would go, they would blow it. So it assembled the army together. I mean, it was used many times, but usually before the new moon, they would always blow the trumpets because that would set the calendar again for another month. But the Feast of the Trumpets is kind of interesting to study about because they still use it right about 10 days before the Day of Atonement. So.
And what you said there about what the trumpets are used for, announcements, warnings, it give, in our text under question 6, it gives us some verses there to look at and then to see how it's used, how the trumpet is used in those particular texts. And they're used in many ways, just like you just said, as an announcement of danger, when they're going to war, to announce a feast of gladness, to set the first day of the month, to blow the trumpet over sacrifices. announced the arrival of a new king.
And Solomon was appointed king, king appointed by God instead of cessation of the king.
Mhm.
I like what Joel 2:1 says, the day of the Lord is coming, blow the trumpet in Zion, as it says.
Mhm. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble.
Mhm.
And verse 3 references that in question 7. It says, another angel came and stood at the altar, holding a golden censer, and much incense was given to him, so that he might add it to the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar which was before the throne. And again, when did we first see this altar? You remember? The vision was given of all those who had been martyred that were under the altar.
Back in Revelation.
Yeah. Revelation 6. In Revelation 6, verses 9 and 10, when the Lamb broke the fifth seal, I saw underneath the altar the souls of those who had been slain because of the word of God and because of the testimony which they had maintained. And they cried out with loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, will you refrain from judging and avenging our blood on those who dwell on the earth? Well, that time is about to come.
Mhm.
And I was wondering about this censer. The only time I've ever seen it is in the Catholic Church. And is this something that, because I've seen them and they burn incense and wave it around and stuff like that. That's the only place I'd ever seen it, and I didn't really, I mean, apparently it has something to do with their religion.
I don't know. I think maybe you even see that some in the Anglican and the Episcopalian.
Episcopalian and
Yeah.
Presbyterian.
Yeah, you see it some there as well.
Yeah, and the Jewish people.
Oh,
The
yeah, the
priests
Jewish
all
people.
used the incense, went back and
You know, our
forth.
church didn't, our Presbyterian church didn't have that. I never did see that there. But they had it before.
We're at,
I guess I've never been around too much. Yeah, that's the only place I've
Mhm.
ever seen it. I just wondered. And is that the same thing as in here, like these people feel that this is a symbol of protection, the burning of the incense and,
it's supposed to be a sweet savor to
Aroma.
God. It's a lifting up to God, a sweet aroma to Him.
okay, I just wondered.
I had to do the hand thing, didn't I?
And really, I'm not even sure where they get that as far as being a part of worship, other than the Jewish tradition. Where that, because that would, I mean, that would have to be Old Testament.
Well, I put a note to ask someone, Jimmy and them, because they're Catholic, and then it was 2 weeks before I got this, and I forgot about it.
All right, and question 10, no, I'm sorry. In our book, in question 8, it said, we tackle the issue of people of God praying for vengeance against God's enemies in lesson 16, which was the last lesson. What has happened to the prayers of God's people through the centuries who have prayed for this judgment? All the prayers are saved in heaven and collected in bowls, and the offering of incense symbolizes the prayers of martyred Christians. Unanswered prayers are sometimes stored up until God chooses to answer in His perfect timing. And this was something that she had shared from Charles Swindoll's book. But it does say that these are this censer does have the prayers of those that were martyred and the prayers that were lifted under that altar. It says it's important for you to add your prayers. Is it important for you to add your prayers to this censer? And why did you answer the way you did? And I had a hard time following her on this, but the prayers of God's people are involved in the judgments that He sends. The throne and the altar are related. And this is a note that's in your book. I believe it's in your book too, isn't it?
Like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The purpose of prayer, it has often been said, is not to get man's will done in heaven, but to get God's will done on earth, even that if that will involve judgment. True prayer is serious business, so we had better not move the altar too far from the throne.
And is it important for us to add our prayers to this censer?
Yeah,
Okay.
our prayers are important.
Okay. I didn't get an answer to that question, that's why I wondered.
Always pray God's will be done. Not my will, but your will, Lord. Might not like what the answer is, but it has to be His will.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've heard people that pray for people for salvation, whatever it takes, pray them on their knees, afflict them, whatever. And that is bad praying, because that is not, there's nowhere in the Bible that says that you should pray on someone to be saved, that they would be afflicted and all that. It's just not biblical. You pray, Lord, your will be done. I'm sure all of you heard that before. You know, bring them to their knees.
You can't force it.
Question 9 says, why does John mention that the smoke rose from the angel's hand to God on His throne? And what is the significance of this in verse 4?
And the censer is for judgment.
Yeah, our prayer moves God into action against the perpetrators of crime and sin and calms Him when He needs to restrain His hand.
The other night I watched the War Room. Seen it so many times, several times. But I just love that little old lady's prayer when she is just praying and praying against, you know, the enemy and praying and it's in warriors, because when you really get down to pray, and you have to be a warrior for the Lord. You're praying for people's lives and souls, and it's serious. Like she said, true prayer is serious business. And I just love to watch how to get into prayer, to be strong in prayer.
In verse 5, what does the angel do next?
Fill it with fire from the altar and hurl it to the earth.
And what does it tell us that happened on earth when this occurred?
Thunder.
Thunder, sound, and
Lightnings.
flashes of lightning, and an earthquake.
And this happened 4 times in Revelation. We see not only here in 8:5, but also in chapter 4, verse 5, chapter 11:19, and chapter 16, verse 18. All of these reference flashes of lightning, peals of thunder, earthquakes.
Have any of you ever felt the earthquake? Ever?
No,
I
we
don't
don't
think
have any earthquakes in West Virginia.
Yeah, we had one, because it hit,
In
you could
Blackstone
feel it
County?
in the bank, where the old basement was.
Yeah.
You could feel, not, it was not shaking or anything, but we couldn't feel it on our side, because we were sitting on the ground.
When I was living in Ohio, I was making canning applesauce, and we had a big movement, and the canner just started moving off of
Yeah.
the thing, and it was, of course, there's a lot
I think
of,
last week they had one between Ohio and West Virginia.
Yeah.
And not close here.
but this is a big earthquake.
This is the,
So what's the purpose of the thunder and lightning and earthquakes? Why would God do this at this point in time?
Judgment's coming.
It's almost like that silence at the beginning, that half hour of silence. It's basically for the same purpose. It's to warn the people on earth that judgment's about to come, and this gives them time to repent. In verse 6, what do the 7 angels do?
They get prepared to sound the trumpets.
Get ready.
well, I thought there would be more. I put that, I thought, well, what are they doing to prepare themselves? But
These trumpets are not gonna be just a little do-do-do-do-do. They're gonna be, they're gonna be, the earth is gonna hear these trumpets. When the trumpets sound, everyone's gonna hear it.
I don't know where I got it. It said something about, this would change life on earth. And said something about it might have been a meteor shower or something that was seen, and this was hurled down to the earth or something. Like I said, it's been 2 weeks. I don't know where I get some of this stuff.
I'm sure a lot of the scientists and all of them, they are going to come up with some kind of explanation for this, They'll come up with something. They won't.
It won't be anything to do with religion at all.
Right.
The thing is, when that first trumpet blast happens, the earth moves into that divine judgment that there's no turning back. There's,
Don't you
that's,
think that would be a little more different than what we have, just like a little earthquake here?
Yeah.
This is going to be something that we know.
there's
that is
going to be no
completely
doubt.
different.
There's going to be
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the unraveling of the world will begin when that first trumpet blasts.
But we may not know what And, it could be a meteor shower that affects the world, and you don't know how it's going to appear or anything. I mean, he doesn't really, he tells us what's going to happen, but not exactly how.
Question 13 says, what happens on earth when the first angel blows his trumpet?
Hell
And fire
Fire.
mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth.
A third of the earth was burned up, trees and grass.
We've seen hell. We've never seen fire come down from heaven, unless it has been like a meteor shower or something. But we've never seen it mingled with blood.
Mm-mm.
You think of hell coming down and fire coming down and blood also.
Instead, it's going to destroy our food supply and our crops and even our livestock and,
If the blood that comes down and it hits us and people don't know what it means, then they're in trouble. That's our warning.
And like you say, they're going to try, the environmentalists,
Yeah.
the governments are going to try to explain it out. Yeah, they'll try to explain it out.
I see these things, I don't know, because I love to watch stars and all this stuff, and so they say, well, there's a big meteor coming this way, and you know how big it is and all that, and I think, if you read this lesson, so what? That's not the way he's going to do it. I mean, it's not going to be one little meteor, and you'll know what it is, and the scientists aren't going to be able to stop it. So,
When you've got these communist countries that's, against religion, so they're going to do their best to tear what it is. Where we're saying it's God and they're saying something else.
And you think about to that first century, when they heard this described, what they thought, they don't have the understanding that we have now of mass destruction from nuclear disasters and those type of things. So it must have been even more beyond them than what it is to us, and it's still so far beyond us we can't imagine. But it's how would a third of the earth being burned up? How's that going to affect life on Earth? I mean, when you think about it, all
really don't
the
wanna be
sickness that would come about from that, and
you don't want to be here.
Well, I got hung up on the third of the sea becoming blood.
yeah,
It's not like I've seen that many bodies of water, oceans and all that, but I can't imagine a third of it
being
being
blood.
nothing but blood.
And when it says a great mountain burning with fire cast into the sea, you think of volcano or something like that, the power that it has, but this is going to be something totally different.
Yeah. The first 4 trumpet blasts occur rapidly, one after the other. What happens on earth when the second angel blows his trumpet?
And that's what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
It said this time, something falling from the sky is described as a great mountain. So that wouldn't be a meteor shower. No, I wouldn't think.
And talks about, the sea and the marine life and the ships. Can you imagine being out on a ship in the middle of the ocean when all this takes place? And in the book it says how many ships are there on the ocean, and here the author said 104. I did some research. I found as many as now. There's like anywhere from 250 to 300,000 ships on the ocean at any given time. And if a third of them, that's up to 100,000 ships affected when that happens.
Yeah, I didn't get that many. I don't know why.
You know, she said 104, and it's, I don't know, it's whatever you looked at. There's like cargo ships, and then there's government, there's military vessels, and then there's yachts, and there's all kinds of different kind of ships. But
I got 5,000, over 5,000 ships at any one time. I thought that was a low number myself.
what happens on earth when the third angel blows the trumpet in verse 10 and 11?
A great star from heaven, burning as a lamp, fell on part of the rivers and on the fountains of water.
Well, I thought that wormwood, I keep wanting to say it backward, that poison the water, many will die from the bitterness. There's no hiding, folks.
No, there is a plant in the Middle East with a bitter taste, and it's not poisonous, but it will kill, and it's wormwood. It will eventually kill you.
Yeah.
It kind of like eats your gut. That doesn't sell. But that's what it does. I mean, it basically poisons your gut.
It was used at one time for medicine. I don't know, I've read so much, so many days that, but it said it was used for medicine at one time.
It's used to kill intestinal worms, but I think it also kills your intestines.
Like I said, your gut.
Yeah.
I guess you gotta choose which way you wanna go.
And just think that's pollution. I mean, just completely everything. You won't be able to drink water. You won't be, the grass, the trees, everything, their food, shelter, everything's going to be affected.
If you think about it, there's two connections with the book of Exodus. The first one is similar to the first of the Egyptian plagues, in which God struck the Nile River and it became undrinkable. And that's in Exodus 7, primarily verses 19 through 21.
We kept referring back to Exodus for different things when you were.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the second instance of the disaster was the opposite, when Moses' miracle at Meribah, there he threw a tree into the bitter waters that were made pure. And that was in Exodus 15, beginning with verse 23. So in verse 12, it says, the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars were struck, so that a third of them would be darkened, and the day would not shine for a third of it, and the night in the same way. And then I looked, and I heard an angel flying in mid-heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to those who dwell on the earth, because of the remaining blast of the trumpet of the three angels who are about to sound.
When the moon struck and the sun and everything like that, it's going to be dark, temperatures are going to go down, it's going to be cold in places that never was cold before, and where it's cold, it's even going to be definitely cold. I put down here cosmic and atmospheric disturbances everywhere.
There's going to be so much chaos going on that you won't be able to focus on any one thing. Do you focus on the sun and moon being darkened, or do you focus on the blood and the water? Or do you focus on
Well, if
the
it's
burned
dark, you won't
terrain?
be able to see the blood in the water.
True.
I'll be okay there.
I think probably everyone will be on their knees. Because I think by this time, people will know what's happening, or they better be.
In question number 20, it says, how will life on earth be affected through this judgment? That's kind of what you're alluding to there. Nothing will grow, no plant life. It'll be twilight, darkness that you can't escape,
No water to drink.
no water, it'll be cold, depressing.
But yeah, I think the electric grid and everything will be gone because the water will be in blood. And you need the water for the electricity, the hydroelectric power.
It'll be.
But I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's gonna be,
That's going to be utter chaos.
I'm sure that the scientists will have figured out how to separate that blood out of that water. So the water will be purified to filter all that.
okay.
All I can think about was when they dropped the atomic bomb. Those people, you know, can you imagine what they went through? What people, oh, now that Russia's invaded, some of them don't know what's going on. I mean, they know they're being attacked, but right when they think they're safe, they do another one. So you just, if you don't know, then it's going to be hard.
But when you think about it, what we do, what man is doing to each other is so insignificant to what's gonna
Yeah.
to happen in God's judgment.
But now, is all this going to be happening after we're taken?
Yes.
That's what I was wondering,
Yes.
because I thought, oh, please.
We're out of here.
We're out of here,
Yeah,
okay.
you won't have to
Good.
witness this.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you won't have to worry about that blood in the water.
No,
No,
I hope.
but those that don't accept him will be left
Yeah.
behind. Those that'll be left behind that haven't accepted him will go through this. But a third of the population's gonna be destroyed.
What the other two-thirds going to do, because with all this
It's a
catastrophe?
coming. It's a coming with the other judgment.
They can't live, so.
Well, maybe he's splitting up to thirds. Fire, water, and, you know, this third of the earth.
I mean, I can't see where only a third will be gone.
Yeah. You know, are they going to be hit it all at one time, or are they going to try, that's what, boy, there's so much you don't understand, and right when you think you do, you think of something else. There's questions.
That's why, like I said, when I did this, I think it's scary. This is the scariest one I think we've done.
It's scary, but it should be the most scary and most intimidating to those that don't know Christ.
Don't believe.
Yeah,
But it's not, they're not the ones who are studying it.
nah.
But we're studying it so that we can, if they ask you, what is to come? We have the answers. You don't want to be there.
Right. But you,
Yeah.
again, you can't make them.
Right.
No, and they're not going to believe you. I mean, if they don't believe in this happening, then you can tell them till you're blue in the face, and it's not going to make any difference to them.
You either better be right or you're gonna get left.
Question 22. The three woes are actually the next three trumpet blasts. Look up the word woe and write down here what you learn. What does woe?
I put a condition of deep suffering from misfortune, grief, affliction, trouble, or calamity.
Things that cause sorrow or distress, troubles. Big troubles.
I have a question, Pastor.
Yes.
King James and 13 says, and I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, And in question 21, what does the eagle say to the inhabitants on the earth? So she is saying that it's not an angel flying, it's an eagle flying. Just a question.
I think I took mine from, I didn't take mine from that Bible that we were.
It
Yeah,
said, my footnote said the older manuscripts read eagle here instead of the angel. The eagle symbolized swiftness and destruction.
what does it say in King James?
It says
Angel?
angel flying through the midst of heaven.
Yeah, seen this in the big Bible that we use for this one. But this Bible that I use, I found a lot better. It says eagle. So,
There's just a difference from an angel to an eagle.
I didn't know I didn't know it said angel there. I have to go back and look at the Greek on that.
A footnote here and you may have it
Yeah.
too, it says the prophet Habakkuk also used the image of an eagle to symbolize swiftness and destruction.
And it says the picture here is a strong, powerful bird flying over the earth, warning the terrors yet to come. But then he's used angels to blow the trumpets and angels for everything else. And now this verse says a bird. An eagle. Leave it to me.
I'm glad you asked that.
But he's using angels on everything else, and then we come with this, and when we read it, and she says eagle, and I said, well, my Bible says angel, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
they fly, both of them.
Both of them fly.
And I wrote down here, and I don't understand this, it says, the woes fall on the unbelieving world, not on the righteous. So apparently, though, all these woes that are falling are not on righteous people. If the righteous people are the believers, they've already gone.
Right.
So I didn't understand that completely.
Well, there will be people after the rapture that will be here that will accept Christ
During the
during
tribulation
the
period.
tribulation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is difficult.
I think we talked about that, what was it, last lesson or 2 lessons ago? We talked about that some.
I listened to you very well the next day, but I
Here,
don't get to ask questions, so that, to me, takes part of it away.
it says here that eagle is actually it's translated as vulture.
Ooh. Yeah, that might be a better description.
The word is also translated vulture, buzzard, bird of prey.
Ooh, I hadn't read.
Several other Hebrew words which are sometimes translated vulture as well.
Say that again there.
Makes me appreciate eagle a little more, but
We have so many buzzards up on our hill, when, there's some dead animal, they just fly around, and Ronnie and I, we'll be sitting out in the driveway late in the evening, and I'll nudge him, and we'll look up, and he says, well, they're coming for us.
Move quickly.
We just sat there, pretty quietly, and I said, well, maybe they think we're dead or something.
yeah, you gotta move every so often.
Yes.
And that's so different, an eagle with a vulture.
Yeah,
Well, that's it, that's
I'll
so different.
go back and look at that. I'm glad you brought that up.
It was probably just not a vulture, it was a turkey vulture, because they are very ugly.
Oh,
Yes, they
my,
are.
yes. Oh,
And the first time I ever saw one was when I was going out in the country to the cemetery, and I pulled into the cemetery, and there the trees were full of these.
Ooh,
And
my.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, they're scary, circling you.
So I like eagle better, because it's a better
I
description.
don't know, the vultures cleaned up the dead deer that was up behind our house. They carried every bone
I
off.
read someplace where vultures will not kill. Vultures only eat what has been killed. And
I
they,
think I've heard that too.
yeah.
Eagles will kill a human.
Hmm?
If eagle will kill a human.
You sure?
They'll kill animals, for sure. I
But
mean,
they
like
are
dogs or
Kill
anything.
a person.
They'll kill animals,
Well, but
and that's where the vultures, if the eagle drops the prey, then the vultures go down and get it.
I'm still safer with an eagle.
Huh?
I'm still safer with
With
an eagle.
eagles.
These,
I'm safer with Angel. Okay.
take Doris will get us off to vultures.
No, I didn't. I just put Angel the eagle. I didn't say nothing about the vultures.
In question 23, read Deuteronomy 32 verses 35 through 36 and write down how you see the justice, majesty, and grace of God manifested in these verses. I don't know if you've done that. Okay. So does someone want to share what they see, how you see those things in these verses?
Vengeance is mine and retribution in due time. And their feet will slip, for the day of their calamity is near, and the impending things are hastening upon them. For the Lord will vindicate his people and will have compassion on his servants when he sees that their strength is gone and there is more remaining bond or free. I think that's right. Bond.
This is a warning against rejecting God.
And the Israelites were good at it, weren't they? Constantly back and forth. God would be good and then they would turn away from him.
And if this affirms that avenging is God's prerogative, not ours.
Mm-hmm.
God brings the justice to his people. All right. Question 24, how do you respond when natural disasters strike our planet and the victims on it?
Prayer, prayer, prayer.
Prayer, yeah.
And the Lord will try to assist.
You know, comfort the families if it's near you.
All right.
And back in verse 23, I looked up on the computer, and he gave me a whole list of places where the grace of God is manifested. I mean, there's dozens of them.
You want to share them?
Well, I'm not going to read them all, but, you know, I use my computer, and if you ask them that question, they will tell you, like 1 Peter 3:14, even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. Do not fear threats. Do not be frightened. But there's a bunch of them. 1 Peter, there was a lot of them, and Corinthians, and I mean, it's all over the Bible. And I did read every one of them and write them down so that, because I thought, you know, even Isaiah, back in the Old Testament, there were several of them. And that sort of helps me. For instance, mine, that's not the only place in the Bible you'll find it.
Right. Well, good. How does pain and suffering change your prayer life? didn't really say if it was your own pain and suffering or if it was the pain and suffering of others, but,
You gotta totally depend upon Jesus. And like in Matthew 11, it says, he'll carry come to me all your heavy laden and I will give you rest. And put our burdens upon him, That's what, you have to give all of it. It really stinks when you're suffering at the time, but you have to know there's a reason. Many times in my life I keep thinking, well, why did I go through that? But then I know why now, because God's given me that insight to help people that is going through the same thing right now. So,
I had 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 17, for our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all.
Well, what was that, 2 Corinthians?
4:17. Again, it's just like you said, when you start looking at, different verses and what they mean to you and that reflect the same thoughts, I think that's when God does speak to us in these, when we're studying like this and on our individual time, that's when we really gain the most from it. Galatians 6:2, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. And another one I had was Psalm 34:19, the righteous person may have many troubles, but the Lord delivers him from them all.
Is that going to get one?
I wrote down Philippians 4:13.
Mm-hmm.
I can do all things through Christ who strengtheneth me. And I think at a time like that, you think you're praying, but you're more sincere in the way you pray for the need or the necessity that's happening at that particular time. Prayer is not just something lightly, but you are more sincere in what you're asking for.
And I think sometimes aren't you maybe asking for something different than for God to take away the pain and suffering, but to help you through it? Because it's His will that you are suffering it. And you have to pray, I think, that He will let you see why you are suffering this and the meaning of why you're going through this.
Not necessarily take it from me, but
Yeah.
sustain me through it.
Yes.
That's what I did. I prayed for strength. I didn't pray for, a positive outcome. I just prayed for the strength to be with me whatever happened. Because He's going to do what He's going to do. But if you ask Him for strength, and I swear He did, He got me through it.
Well, He already knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, you're not going to change His mind. All you can do is hope that He will help you.
Help you. Hold my hand through it.
What keeps you listening for God's voice and keeps you humble before Him as you walk your Christian life?
what keeps me from it? My stubbornness. Well, I'm not gonna write anything that makes me feel good. Sometimes it's just I'm too stubborn for my own good.
We want to do it ourselves and not rely
Yeah.
on Him to help us.
Oh, yeah.
I think I can handle this.
Word our prayers so it will He'll do what we want Him to do instead of turning it over to Him.
And I think
And I think
sometimes
we
we don't
don't
even
even
think about the fact that we're taking it on ourselves instead of turning it over to him. We think we're being courageous and taking care of things and. We're not.
No, we're not.
I'm so happy I got a different check.
I am too. I'm so happy you all did. And see, we will get to meet next week too, right?
Yes.
Right.
All right, less than 18 next week. We get to meet 2
get
weeks in a
another
row, 2 weeks in a row. What do you think of that? Try to bring your right Bible next week.
Well, it worked fine for us.
Yeah, it did. It
Yeah,
did.
just don't tear it up, getting it back in there.
Yeah, please, Leonard. I have a feeling things are about to get wayward.